She is the host and the creator of the Texas Monthly Dallas Cowboys pod, America's Girls, but more presently, the co-conspirator behind Smoke 'em If You Got 'em with our own Nancy. Who recently, unfortunately, did a much better job as me as guest co-host. She's also the author of the best-selling memoir, Blackout. She is with us right now. I got to tell you, as I've already emailed you, Sarah, pod is firing on all cylinders. I love it.
Oh, thank you. I love it too. I think we've hit a good groove. It took us about 35 episodes.
We are well past 1,000, and we have yet to hit a groove.
Yeah.
The groove that you speak of. So please
You'll
teach
get
us.
there.
Please teach
I
us your
believe in
ways.
you both.
But it's great. It's you and the equally wonderful writer Nancy. You both have great takes on interesting, little things that are going on socially, and not necessarily you go down roads that you wouldn't necessarily think you're going to go down, and I love it. And in fact, to your point, I became obsessed with this story because of you guys. This is something that is so up your alley.
Okay.
And we just added, I think, what was kind of an update to it, just to get you gabbing on it. But Susan Meachin.
Yes.
They devoted almost half a podcast to this girl, and do we even know if she's a girl? We still know so little about her, but this is a self-published novelist who 2 years ago had her daughter go on, I guess, her social medias and say
it's like a Facebook fan group,
right, and said because of the haters she had killed herself. Well, 2 years later, guys, much like Christ, Susan is back. And she had said that she had cryptically added after announcing that she was indeed alive. We now don't even know she had a daughter. We think that she was the head of her own memorial sites or immemorial sites. And this is by Megan Greenwell sort of talking about the whole thing in the Times.
and I think that there might have been, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but there might have been some like GoFundMe's or something set up for the family or the funeral, perhaps.
And smart that she is, although also probably crazy. None of the family asked for these, so can they still legally get into them? Because that's the question right there. When you first found this out, I'm sure you were like, as I was, and then secondly, I mean, Joanne has a branded segment called "Good for Her." I mean, it's a clever way to keep your name out there, get some books read. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my first reaction was just jealousy. Why did she think of this before I did? I could also fake my own death, and I could have gotten a lot of publicity for it. So, my first thought was Nancy just sent it to me, and she was like, we have to talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're obsessed with hoaxes. And also, both of us working in the publishing industry, we have a mix of fascination and professional envy at anyone else that gets attention. And so we want to know about them, but we also kind of secretly don't want them to do well. And this was a perfect mix. Now, something interesting about Susan Meachin, when I read the story, I was like not even convinced this was a real person. But the New York Times put out a story this morning, which was an interview with her, which is the first profile of her. It's by the author Ellen Berry, and she went to Susan Meachin's home. Susan Meachin is a real person. She has a husband and a daughter. And what happened is, and she also has mental illness. She is bipolar.
Oh.
And what happened to her was, I think, an accelerated version of something that happens to a lot of us online, which is that she sort of lost the thread of what was real and what was imaginary. And she began becoming confused about what was the world she was making up and what was the world that was real. She was taking all the criticism very personally. She did try to kill herself. And she took a bunch of, I think, like Xanax or something like that. I mean, she didn't try that hard, but it was serious. And then somehow they come up with this idea that they're just going to quietly have her go away and pretend like she died. And she does that for 2 years, and then she changes her mind. It's an astonishing story. I cannot wait to watch the Netflix docuseries.
Yeah.
No kidding. I don't know how.
Be the Donner.
I don't know how in the 21st century you could get away with something like this. 2 years is impressive.
Yeah.
I would also add, and I don't want to offend any of our mentally ill viewers out there, saying that you're bipolar is a rather convenient way of shielding yourself from some of the criticism that might come from, say, faking your own death, getting some GoFundMes, things like that. That, to me, would be something that if you had the chutzpah to, A, fake your own death, then I would think that you also might have the cojones to say, hey, you know what? Don't blame me. I'm bipolar. I'm not saying that's what she's doing. I'm just saying that that's something that someone like that might do.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But all medical diagnoses are squishy and best guesses to begin with.
True.
I mean, they're really just hypotheticals done by medical professionals. And if she wanted that diagnosis, I actually, to be cynical, I don't think it would be very hard to find one. Is that the question of whether or not that is a suitable reason for this kind of fraud that she pulled? I mean, that'll be a matter for the courts to decide. The New York Times story opens with the police showing up at her house. There have been charges filed against her by some of the people that contributed to these GoFundMes. There was another woman that pitched in to edit several memoirs and put them out, and they're really upset.
Yeah.
It's so...
Well, this also reminds me of an episode of Friends, as most things do, where Ross decides to share with his alumni group from his college that he has died. Just to see who's going to show up to the funeral. Or maybe it was like a prank by Chandler. Anyways, Ross is like, ooh, now let me see who's going to miss me, who's going to show up. And no one does. And that really is the biggest sort of fear in doing something like this. That maybe you want people to be like, oh man, I really shouldn't have done that. I wish I was nicer to her. And then to come out and to do this outpouring of love and support. But if she didn't get that, would she have stayed dead?
It's such an interesting question. I love that you brought up Friends because there is something of a sitcom scenario to this.
Truly.
And I do think that it's also kind of a fantasy that people have.
Oh, God.
I wonder what would happen if I died. And also that killing yourself off or leaving public life or whatever it is that she did, is a fantasy scenario that many people have, especially when they owe a lot of money to Visa. Not that I would know that. But
I'm right there with you.
It's Bill. Bill, you said you thought this was so strange that it could happen in the 21st century, and I know what you mean because we have all these sort of tools of surveillance. But I think it's uniquely possible in the 21st century because we have all these levels and tools of deception. Who you are online. You could be anybody online.
That's true.
I mean, go to a dating app and it won't take you long to learn that.
Well, and this shows you. I mean, I didn't even know about the update today for the Times. Boy, I got to get better at my job. But I'm still not even clear. Is that really her name? Did she use her real name? Well, then that right there, that blows my mind. I mean...
Also, it's she didn't have any dental appointments in the 2 years. She didn't have any sort of things where anyone in her community would say, oh, but I caught wind you were dead, but you're not.
Well, I think
that part's weird. That part's weird, but she did have a separation from... the people in her small town are not very online, and they had no idea she had this alternate romantic life.
Oh, I see.
Life as a romance novelist.
Gotcha.
So that was completely separate, and one of the private pains she's experienced with this story is that everybody in her town now knows about this. They didn't know about it before. As to the question about, in terms of searching public records, there would have to be something like a lawsuit against her. You can't just search people's dental records. And generally, when my friends die, I don't go tracking down whether or not they really died or not.
It'd be so great if you did. Bullshit.
I don't have the time.
Bullshit. Sally always just wanted attention. She's alive.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove it.
Some of them might still be alive and kicking around.
Receipts.
I have no idea.
I'm thinking the only thing I can think of recently that, and I could be getting this wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Olivia Newton-John, R.I.P., she actually died, didn't she have a husband?
Fiance, I think.
Fiance, and he faked his own death? and then because he did have some sort of money issues, and then they found pictures of him
On like a boat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. He was on
Yeah.
a cruise ship and he disappeared, and the story that went out was that he died. And so there were all these things like, "Oh my God, Olivia, I'm so sorry," but then it turned out he was actually alive.
Poor Olivia. I'm sure that didn't do her heart very well to find that out. I mean, I don't think she was in on it. But see, that goes into the same category of like either how to fake your own death or even the more problematic, how to commit the perfect murder. I always go back. I just did a podcast on Caddyshack, and I did way too much research for it because I am horribly alone. But one of the things being that Doug Kenny, who was the head writer for Caddyshack, and this brilliant guy that came up with the Harvard Lampoon and then the National Lampoon, and behind all the old classics. Well, he goes to Hawaii with Chevy Chase. He's depressed that Caddyshack didn't do as well as he thought it should do, although it was still a hit. Chevy Chase leaves. He's still alone with his cocaine. And then he ends up either slipping or killing himself at the top of a cliff on Hawaii. And there is all sorts of thought that perhaps there was foul play, all sorts of thought that maybe he killed himself, or even kind of dumber, again, hiking and slipped. And it always occurred to me that is the perfect murder right there. If you're in an isolated place, no security cameras, it's just you and the other person, and you're just kind of done with them. Bloop. I mean, how in the hell can anyone prove that you did it? You'll probably have a cloud of suspicion over you for the rest of your life, but you're going to get away with it.
Hiking is the perfect murder. Cruise ships are pretty good, as Dateline would suggest, since there's like half the Dateline episodes are about somebody that
And Natalie Wood would also agree with you.
Exactly, because people get drunk on these cruise ships, and then you don't know if they slipped or what happened, and it's just they go into the icy drink. But a hiking trip is even better because there's no potential witnesses.
Right, and no cameras. And I'm
No
sure
cameras.
every cruise ship knows how drunk those passengers get, and they got cameras everywhere, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll tell you what. We have to kill this episode because next time I ask a friend to go hiking, I don't want any of this evidence out there. But that's how you do it. Yeah. But like how to fake your own death, that's harder, I think.
Well,
And then you got to have a new identity, and I don't know.
You know what the Susan Machen story reminds me of, though? Do you remember the Monty Teo story?
Oh, of course. I just saw the docu, which it's unbelievable, very compelling. And for the first time, I actually have a huge amount of sympathy for the guy. At the time, no one believed a word he was.
Oh wait, wasn't he catfished by
a man?
A man pretending to be a woman. Okay, yeah.
Who is now identifying as a woman.
Oh, I see.
So therefore, we can't say that what he did was bad.
Got it.
But that's my own armchair quarterbacking of this catfishing. But yeah, well, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Continue.
The reason that I that it's a parallel is because while Monty Teo was being catfished by somebody pretending to be this woman, Lene died. And Monty, it was right before this big game, and Monty was like grieving, and there were all these like interviews with him that he had lost his girlfriend, and then she came back from the dead and texted him, which has got to be like the shock of his life.
Oh God! But so many weird. I mean, they'd never met in real life and all that stuff, and there is a lot going on there. But I'll tell you. I'll give you another example in the sports world. Don't worry, very only loosely so.
Okay.
I'm in the middle, and I'm very late to the game on this one, especially since it's like 5 parts. But the Oscar Pistorius story, where remember he was the South African runner, and he shot the girlfriend in the bathroom, all that stuff. Well, you look at the whole thing, and you're like, especially since they had some issues, you're like, he killed her, and this is a very bad way of saying that you did it. Well, I'm watching this thing, and now I'm not so sure for reasons I won't even get into because it's just too convoluted. But it's a lot like the Manti Te'o thing where, again, I found sympathy.
Wait, what ended up being the verdict of that case?
He, I think, did get some jail time just for the fact that, he did kill her. That is undebatable. Whether or not it was actually
premeditated or not.
But I believe, I'm not at the end, so I've forgotten the specifics of the actual verdict. But I believe he's free now. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think he is. See, as usual, I'm great with my research. I didn't know I'd go down the road of Oscar, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm starting to think that like a lot like with Mante, I've changed my mind. And that's why you got to really watch those long documentaries.
It does make you wonder, though, what is the lesson in all of this?
Does there have to be one?
I like just like, should we do away with the Facebook fan groups? Maybe. I don't know.
You know, it's really, you ask a really hard question because, you know, there's a book that Malcolm Gladwell wrote called Talking to Strangers, and it's sort of all about the ways that we can, like, communication fails. And one of the lessons of that book is that it is really easy to dupe someone if you want to. We all think that we won't be fooled, but we actually probably will be. And what it takes to ward off against all suspicion of people, it would just turn you paranoid. You'd become so untrusting. So it is a better,
Interesting.
it is a, like in Gladwell's point, in Gladwell's, I guess, like, thinking, it is better to be trusting and know that you will sometimes be fooled by bad actors than to wander the world thinking that everyone is a liar, which they potentially could be. And I would agree with him. I think you just know that some people could dupe you and you just let it go. I mean, and as far as the online dating thing goes, you have to meet in person. You just have to meet in person.
Yeah.
If only Manti had seen this show way back in the day. We could have saved him a lot of trouble. Well, even though I know you love talking about all things death, you got anything? You don't need to be uplifting.
Speaking of writers that aren't dead, Prince Harry. Which, by the way, I just watched all of the Harry and Meghan doc.
Make fun of her because I did too.
And I'm just really impressionable because now I'm on their side. I don't know. If you write or film something really compelling, I'm gonna side with it. I don't know. I'm what's wrong with America. But Prince Harry's new memoir is out, and there are 15 references to his private parts.
What do you mean? What kind of parts?
All right, he made 8 references to his penis, 1 to his cock, 6 to his Dodger, 1 to down there, and another to his bespoke cock cushion. He even included a detailed description of his experience with penile frostbite. He goes into a whole lot of detail. There's been a lot going around on social media of the clip of him doing the audiobook of him describing his frostbitten penis.
Oh, God.
Can I have questions.
Yes.
First of all, I also made 15 references to Harry's penis in my book.
Yes.
So this is awkward.
Who hasn't when you think about it?
But second of all, what's a bespoke cock cushion? Is that your balls? And does that mean that it's different than everybody else?
I hate that I know what it is because I looked into this.
Good. You shouldn't hate this. This was important work.
Thank you. So the first time his penis got frostbitten was because he was not well protected in that area. So then later when he was doing another charity walk or hike or something, and he knew that once again it was going to be cold, he had a seamstress or a tailor create a special garment for him that included a, quote, bespoke cock cushion that would further protect and insulate his manhood.
You know what this is? This is a roundabout way of saying, hey, everyone, I got a big dick. That is all it is. I do not believe he ever got frostbitten because, like, it would have to be an issue to begin with for it to just be out there enough to get frostbitten. He knows it. He knows people are going to think it. And this is a pseudo-modest way of telling everyone, yeah, that's what I think.
Well, it's just coiled in his pants. It just coils and coils and coils to the tip.
Yeah.
And you know why no one's buying it? Because he's British. I said it.
He did clarify, too, because there had been rumors that he and his brother were not circumcised, but he said that the stories are false. He was snipped as a baby. Now, Sarah,
Was anyone asking? Again.
You're not curious?
I am now.
No, you wrote a memoir. As you said, you also reference his penis 15 times. But here's what I don't understand, okay? yes, you write it, but you have editors. You have people who go through and maybe ask it, you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to put this in there? Or maybe you don't want to say cock so many times. Or you know, like maybe, so if this is the edited version, how many more times do you think he referenced his penis?
It's a really good question.
No, it's not. Don't give it to her.
No, it is. This book was ghostwritten by J.R. Morninger, who is an excellent author. He wrote a memoir called Tender Bar. He's a great writer,
sure.
and I leave him responsible for many of these choices. My guess is that Harry is the kind of guy that would like to have referenced his cock maybe 30 to 45 times, and this represents a tasteful sampling of the mentions.
Tasteful.
But I also think that this book, which was probably bought for more than $1 million, they were not going to shy away from anything that was going to get attention on social media, which it surely has done. This book is on track to be one of the most popular books of all time. It's crazy.
That's why I reject Joanne's premise, because any editor worth their salt and also needing to justify how much they paid Harry, when he sends in copy, they get back to him. Listen, I know this is more about how the inner workings of the monarchy work and all that. Could you throw in a couple cocks?
Oh, I see.
You know, I think if anything, they're just like, more cock, please.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about tax returns as they relate to the royal family, but we need you to reference your junk. Just for this one. I think
they knew exactly what was going to happen with that, you know, like the little audio sample of the frostbitten penis. I mean, the question is why he consented to that, and I couldn't really answer that, except that he might have thought it was funny, or it might be really how he talks, or he might have been desperate to get attention, which, you know, is something that is one of the running themes of the book. I mean, it's called Spare. You know, the whole idea is that there was the heir and the spare, and he was the spare, and so he could never get attention. And it's sort of like, well, you know, what do you do when you need attention? You just wave your willy around. If you're a boy, I have to do it metaphorically.
Yeah. No, I find one and I wave it.
Yeah, sure.
They're all over the place in this city.
Trader Joe's.
But that's why it's very difficult for a lot of people, unlike yourself, to have sympathy for him. Because on one hand, you're waving the willy that is, look what the British press has done to me. And then in the other willy, you're making this documentary and saying, hey, press, come to me so I can tell you all about what the press has done to me. Yeah, the family thing too, but I don't know.
Well, it's about owning your narrative. And he's certainly doing that. When you were writing...
I would actually, I guess I have to push back a little bit. I think one of my objections to this book is that I don't think it's his narrative. I think it's somebody else's. I think this is largely written by J.R. Morninger. And when I read it, I got the audiobook and I had to turn it off after 10 minutes because it was not his voice.
Interesting.
Actually, Harry's physical voice, actual voice, is really good. He's really good as a narrator, but you could just really feel the influence of writerly flourishes. You know, the swan skimming the lake and the inky black waters and shit like that, that like, no, like, you know, he didn't say that. And I am so mortally offended by that, because I really believe in memoir as sort of like the ultimate carrier of the human soul, like in print form. And so for him to do what felt to me like a ventriloquy job, I just thought it was really lousy.
You are so right. And I thought about it, but I didn't think about it knowing that he had that ghostwriter. I mean, I assume they all do. But when they did that clip of him describing how ugly Harry had become with his hair thinning at a faster rate than Harry's, and how he formerly looked like Diana, but now his face had morphed into this grimace. It was so writerly and so not something that even a member of the royals would ever put that way.
Yeah.
And of course it got so much press just for the fact that he's called his brother ugly while still wanting to mend ties and all that. But it was there's no way that was just a thought that came.
I mean, maybe it does go to show, right? Even though Harry has separated himself from the royal family, his upbringing and that dedication to appearance and keeping up face and all of that, he probably read this book that was helped along for him and thought, yes, I want people to see me this way.
Yeah.
with this
Absolutely.
flourish as a writer, you know?
Yeah.
You're exactly right. I think that's a really smart parallel to make between the performance of status done by the royal family that is just sort of in their blood. I mean, he can't get away from it at this point, and the performance of writerliness that is this book. He didn't write that crap, but he's going to pretend like he did.
Oh, it's so true. But we really need to start putting a kibosh on our Harry talk.
Kibosh?
Yeah, that's cool speak for stop.
Nah.
Because it's just been merciless. But, I blame myself. Can't even make fun of Joe. I watched the documentary, too. It was a slow weekend.
I think it's interesting that you guys liked them after watching the documentary.
I know, I'm on the
only-
fence.
Well, I felt sympathy with them, I'll tell you that much. And I think
Yeah.
Meghan Markle is beautiful. I mean, the camera really loves her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I loved watching pictures of her, and I liked the story of their courtship. But I just found them so tiresome. I couldn't stop. I had to stop after 2 episodes.
She's the kind of pretty that I do not like, though.
Yeah.
Just very ice princessy, all surface. She's almost too perfect.
That's exactly what I want to be, Bill. I think
That's exactly
why
what.
I like
Yeah,
it.
I know.
No, but whenever I watch these documentaries or these series, it always reminds me, like, God damn it, I need my husband to take more candid pictures of me, like posed candids, or I need to, do some more like cutesy little videos or things.
Yeah.
So when I have the opportunity for the retelling of my life, I have more content that isn't just pictures of my food.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Yeah.
point.
We all need that. I mean, I think one of the weirdest details of that was that they met through Instagram, which I did not realize.
Yeah.
That one of their mutual
Yes.
friends had posted a picture of her with a Snapchat filter on her face, which is, to my understanding, the first time a man has been turned on by a Snapchat filter.
Yeah. It was a
Because-
dog. It was like a little dog with ears.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It was her as a little dog. And then the other detail that was so irritating to me was that at their engagement party, everybody had to wear animal footy pajamas.
Yes.
And then they wore penguin footy pajamas because penguins mate for life.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to their
No, but
engagement.
it made
That
me
is
realize that
horrible.
I do think they are good together because they're both kind of like nerds.
Yes.
They're
Yeah.
weirdos. Like
Yeah.
they're both
They
a
are good
little
together.
awkward and like their sense of humor I find strange, but they seem to enjoy it.
And she
So-
definitely runs the show. That much I took away from it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, my dear, as usual, time flies by. Please let us know when next you are in New York. So,
Here's the filter back.
oh my God, look at that. You know what? Here's my theory. Snapchat was in its infancy, and Harry had never seen this before, and he thought to himself that it was actually clever. Before everyone,
Or maybe he thought that was real.
Yeah. Everyone's got their kink.
What a tongue.
believe that.
There's multiple members of the monarchy that are closet furries. Absolutely there are. Absolutely there are. And maybe he is one. Wow, well done, guys. And Jesus, that's just someone I don't want to spend time with. Well, what other plugs, promotions? What do you have upcoming that we should be checking out?
Oh, let's see. I'm on contract. I write for Texas Monthly now. It's the Texas Monthly magazine. I live in Dallas, Texas, so it's a fabled news institution.
It
so I'm always
really
writing
is.
for
Everyone
them.
I know wants to work for that magazine. And
It's good. It's a
no
good
one
one.
leaves it. Yeah, seriously.
That's the problem. Nobody leaves
Exactly.
it. We're gonna have to. It's funny because true crime is sort of the bread and butter of Texas Monthly. We're gonna have to kill off some of those senior writers. I think I might go hiking with them. Nice.
You know what? Tell you what, if you pay for the tickets to Hawaii, I'll take care of everything else. How about that? There's a good give and take.